Hey, Chef Joe here with Western Hospitality Group. I want to share with you my award-winning pizza dough. I was really fortunate to be on a show called Best in Dough on Hulu, and this is the recipe that I used for the dough that I made on the show. The biggest key takeaway here is the Poolish. It's a pre-ferment. You want to just mix 1-to-1 flour and water with a pinch of yeast. You can see this on our YouTube channel. And then you just cover it up, let it go about 12 hours overnight. And this is going to give a lot more structure and flavor to your pizza dough. So we're going to go ahead and start out, and we're going to add this to our mixing bowl and our stand mixer. Now, I like to get all the wet ingredients in first so I can get that mixed up and cohesive. Next up is 2 teaspoons of yeast. This is actually instant yeast. I really love this stuff. It works every time. 2 teaspoons going in. Next, we want to feed the yeast, so we're putting 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now, this could be honey, it could be date molasses, you know, any kind of sweetener. Agave works really great. Today we're using sugar. And then just for some extra richness and flavor, we're going to add 5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And then lastly, our water. So this is just 3 cups of water. One of the things that I did on the show, Best in Dough, is I added a cup of beer. So I did 2 cups of water and a cup of beer. So the beer gives it a really great flavor and also helps with that fermentation. So we're just going to mix this up. And then we're going to add our flour. So what we have here is approximately 10 cups of organic bread flour. You can use all-purpose. Then one little key is we use buckwheat flour. So you can use a mixture of ancient grains. On the show that I did with the award-winning dough was buckwheat. So this is just about a half a cup of the buckwheat flour. And then now we're going to mix it up. We're saving the salt for last because after we mix it, we're going to do something called Autolyse, which is more or less just letting the dough rest for about 5 minutes or so. And that allows the gluten to develop. So we're going to mix this on for about 4 to 5 minutes on low speed. One thing I like to do is just, after a couple of minutes, bring it down, grab your spatula, and just make sure that everything from the bottom is lifted up. Sometimes there's like a little crevice on the bottom, and it has a tough time picking that up. So I just like to make sure that everything is pulling off the bottom there. I like to test and see where my moisture level is too. Want to make sure that it's nice and tacky, not too dry, because depending on the day, you can have extra moisture in the air. So you may need more flour, you may need more water. This would be a good time to adjust that, especially if you needed water. You want to do it in the early part of the mixing. It's easier to incorporate. Once it comes together as a mass and about 4 minutes have elapsed, you want to let it rest. So this is a part where it's really a great little tip where you can develop a lot of flavor and a lot of gluten just by allowing your dough to rest, especially before you put the salt in. It gives a chance for the yeast to start feeding on that sugar and start doing its thing. So ultimately, I'm testing right now for moisture. It feels moist on my hand, but it's not sticking to it, so I know that my ratios are correct. I don't have to add anything else here. It'll come together really nicely for me. So, you know, making any kind of dough, it's a lot of fun because it's very tactile. You know, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So right here, I know that's exactly where I want to be. So I'm going to let this rest. All right, so about 4 minutes has elapsed. We allow the dough to rest and have this Autolyse process. And then now we're going to add the salt as we mix it up again. And then we're going to let it mix for about 8 to 10 minutes until it comes together as a smooth elastic ball. And then I'll show you how to finish it off. Now that it's come together as a smooth bowl, we're going to remove it. We're going to finish it right on our cutting board. So one thing I like to do is, as I finish kneading it, is put it into a lightly oiled bowl. Some extra virgin olive oil is great, so that we can allow it to proof and has some space for it to do so. We'll take this out of our mixing bowl. You can really feel that there's moisture, but it's not sticking to my hand. So the more moisture, the higher the hydration, the bigger the bubbles and more air that you're gonna get in there. But then it's gonna be harder to work with. So I like a nice balance. Good hydration, but not really sticking to my hands too much so that it's easier for me to work with making the pizzas. So here we're just gonna fold it in on itself, finish the kneading process. You can see how much it gives back. All that springiness is the gluten that we developed, and that's exactly what you want to see. So we're just going to make this into a nice tight ball. We just want to tighten it up as much as possible, so that way when the yeast is doing its job, it really has something to push up against and create lots of flavors and structure for us. This is going to be a slow ferment, so we're going to cold ferment this. Going to go 2 days in the fridge, and then it'll be ready to make some wonderful pizzas. There you have it. We have a nice tight ball. You can see how beautiful that looks. You can smell the Poolish. It already smells like great bread, and you can also smell that buckwheat in there too. It's going to give us some really great nuttiness and flavor. So we're going to go top side down first, get that oil on there. We're going to flip it over. We're going to make sure that everything is greased up. There you have it. We're going to cover this up. We're going to put it in the fridge for about 2 days, and then we'll show you the next step when we ball up the dough, getting ready to make some pizzas. Our pizza dough is now proofed. It's cold fermented for about 2 days in the fridge, which cold fermented just means it's been sitting in the fridge. So that way it's nice and low and slow, so that we develop a lot of flavors, and it's going to be a lot of structure as well. So now we're going to overturn this bowl. You can see how much it's doubled in size, even more so. And we oil the bowl, so that way it should come out fairly easily-ish. There we go. And then now you can weigh these dough balls out. If you had a pizzeria, you more than likely would be. I'm just gonna go for 10 even-sized dough balls. If you're gonna make a really large pizza, this would probably make a couple of big, large pizzas. Since we're gonna be using our Gozney Roccboxes, which are these awesome portable ovens, we're going to make them into smaller size balls, and they're going to be about approximately 8 inches each. So now I've split the dough ball into 2 even logs just to make it easier for me to portion them into 5 dough balls each. And you can make this any size that you like. You can turn them into 8 to have bigger slices or bigger pies. You can go even up to 12. We're going to go right about 5 and 5 of each log. That's going to be the right size that I like to use in my Gozney Roccbox Pizza Oven. So there's about 5 there. We have 5 there. Now the fun part, rolling the dough balls. So we want to have another fermentation overnight in the fridge. So this will actually be 3 days total fermentation time before we use the dough ball. And what we want to happen is when the yeast is doing its job and puffing, it's going to need something taut to push against. So that's the reason why we make these balls. So we just want it nice and tight. We want to make sure that the bottom is closed off. Otherwise that'll be like a hole in your pizza. And you have this really beautiful dough ball that has all that gluten already developed. You see how it pushes back. That's one technique. I find it really easy to roll it on the surface like that, especially like a wooden cutting board. Gives you a little bit of friction. You want a little bit of friction for the dough to push against. And I'm just cupping the bottom of my hand to just cut under the dough ball to create that friction and turn this into a beautiful pizza dough ball, just like that. So that's one technique. Another technique that you can use is just folding it in under itself. So you can take the dough ball and you can just kind of pinch, roll it over, fold it over, fold it over, and that also will create a really tight dough ball. And you're gonna just have to go underneath here and pinch it. And this I find a little bit easier with a larger dough ball, but it still works really good. So once you get a nice tight ball, you're gonna go on the bottom, you're gonna pinch it. You're gonna make sure it's totally closed off, give it one little roll, and there you have it. So So as I roll these out, I'm going to put them into a proof box. So these are really awesome. You can put it in any kind of pan that you can just create airtight and put in the fridge. Really nice thing about these proof boxes is you don't really need to oil them, you don't really need to flour them. It's just get them in there and cover it up right away. And it just really keeps the moisture nice. If you get really good at doing this, you can even do it with 2 hands at once. You're just going in opposite directions, so it's kind of fun. Get your workout in. Now that we have all the dough balls portioned out, we're going to put it into our proof box. We're going to let this go 1 more day overnight, and then it'll be ready to use the next day. And there you have it, our award-winning pizza dough that won me the Best in Dough competition on Hulu. This is my go-to dough, super simple. I hope you enjoy it, and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more content like this.